All right. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming. I'm happy to see everyone here today. I love the data conference. I have attended this every year for 7 years now. It's always a lot of fun for me, and I enjoy meeting lots of new people every time and catching up with people I haven't seen since the last year. Is everyone having a good day so far? Great. So my name is Jennifer Hornsby, and I work in the registrar's office. I work on a team that we call Regtech. And I am here today to tell you a little bit about my team and what we do and what kind of data we provide to the university. Hopefully you'll find some of it helpful. See. So in the next 45 minutes, I'm going to cover who our team is, the enrollment and records site in analytics, which is all the reports that we provide. I'll go over some of the most commonly requested pre-built reports that we maintain. And talk in the end a little bit about what options we offer when the data that we provide isn't exactly what you need. So I'll talk a little bit about how we can help you get exactly what you need when what we already have isn't there. So Regtech, in the registrar's office, I find that a lot of people don't know what the registrar's office does. Our office is responsible for students registering for classes, grading, outgoing transcripts, posting degrees, sending out diplomas, and Arizona residency for tuition purposes. So at a high level, that's what we do. We don't do admissions. We don't evaluate incoming transcripts. We have no experience with high school information or anything like that. So our side of the house is more after they've already been admitted and enrolling at ASU. And then we support those students forever. As you know, our students can access My ASU forever after they've been a student. They can always order their transcript. We never lock them out like some institutions do. So our office is always supporting those alumni and former students. So on this slide here, I'm just showing some of the data that we have expertise with. It's a lot of different things, but it's all about their academic record. The Regtech team is a team of 10 analysts, and they are responsible not just for data, but also for all of the processes behind them. So our team is responsible for automating most of the processes that I just listed, the core processes of the registrar's office. As you know, students register for their classes in self-service, faculty post grades in self-service. We don't do any of it manually anymore, like people did 30 or 40 years ago. So our team is responsible for making sure that those things work. We partner with enterprise technology. We work very closely with the My ASU team and with PeopleSoft developers to get all of these things to work. We could not do it ourselves. One of the things that we spend most of our time in is maintaining PeopleSoft. Does anyone in here use PeopleSoft, query it? Yes, great. All right, thanks. So at ASU, PeopleSoft is the system of record for academic records. And all of the pages and tables and processes that are updating the academic records are the responsibility of the Regtech team. We make sure the pages are working. We troubleshoot when you think it's not working. We're responsible for running several hundred batch processes every day, some throughout the day. So reporting is actually a very small part of our responsibility, but it's something that we take very seriously, and most of us really enjoy it. I do. I love being here. One of the skills that we leverage is for our responsibility for the batch processes. We do a lot of what are called query-based updates, or QBUs. In order to do that, we have to write the query that is the input for the population select for the records we're going to update. That allows us to update tens of thousands of records at one time, sometimes hundreds of thousands of records at one time. And so we kind of get the experience on both sides. We're not just reporting to give someone information, but we're building queries that are actually going to update the records. Let's see. So because reporting is such a small part of our responsibility and the time that we can allow to spend on it, we rely on delivering pre-built reports to most of our customers across the university. And this is potentially about 3,000 users. However, it's more realistically only about 1,000 people that use our reports. We don't email reports. If someone asks for a list of students with XYZ, we don't have the capacity to keep up with that. There's only 10 of us and it's just not feasible. So what we've tried to do is take the data that most people have asked for most often that serve the most critical need, and we spend our time delivering reports through the analytics portal. I'm very excited to get to work on the new release that's just coming out in a few weeks. Hopefully that will help our customers find the data that they need faster. But with what we have currently in production, we've grouped our reports into these categories. We have let's see. I'm sorry, I need to back up and say who has access. Do any of you know that if you already have access to this group of reports? Okay, some of you already know, thank you. Because of the high volume of people that need access to the reports, we don't actually grant access one person at a time to our site. However, it is automatically granted to anyone who has access to student information and ASU data warehouse. So any power user that already has access to student information has access to this. You also have access to some of our content on the BI desktop. We have a shared folder where we can drop files, queries, workflows, anything like that we can share with you there. So that's the first option. The second option is all of the users at ASU who have access to student information in PeopleSoft. That's all the enrollment staff, all the advisors, all of those staff that are actually updating the records. They get access to this as well. One of the reasons we did that is because there was a need for staff at orientation to have access to the open classes for orientation and other reports like that. And because the turnover for that group was so high, we couldn't keep up with it if we didn't just grant it automatically with PeopleSoft. So if you don't have access to our site, or one of your friends doesn't and they need it, this first page has the links to request access. One of our, well, I call it our #1 report, even though it's about 36 reports, is what we call enrollment tracking. And I won't go so far as to call this an enrollment trend report. It's really just comparing where we are today with this point in time last year. And 2 years isn't really a trend, but it's what we focus most of our time on. So we call this enrollment tracking. This is what the set of reports looks like that are in analytics. This data matches the report that my team sends out on a weekly basis. We usually send it out from when enrollment appointments end for a fall or spring term until the 21st day of that term. So we will be starting sending these out for spring next week. I've just put a little star next to the ones that are the most commonly or most popular. So one of my favorites, and I don't know if I can move that box, but I can. Thank you. Mine isn't controlling that, but that's okay. There's only one word cut off that matters. Thank you. So All of these reports have a lot of parameters that let you filter by campus, college, career, department, major, all of those things. But the first one on the top is the student enrollment by campus term comparison quick view. We named it quick view because there's no parameters, so the report just populates, or at least it normally does. The other ones, because there's parameters, you don't see the data yet until you actually pick some parameters. So we put that one on the top. That's the fastest glance at what the total enrollment is for a given term. If you looked at this today, you could see data for spring, even though I said we're not sending reports out until tomorrow, till next week. All of the reports that are called term comparison means we're comparing one term with the previous like term. So 1 year ago, we use snapshots to do that. All of the reports that are named current term means it's just the current term, whatever term you pick, it's going to just be that data. Sometimes you don't want to compare to the prior year. All of the reports that are named by campus means that no matter what you filter, when you open the report, the data is going to be broken down into categories by campus. And I should explain that it's not just campus, it's all of the locations as well. All of the reports named by college means no matter what filters you apply to the report, when the report populates, the numbers will be broken down by college and or division, department, and major. So it gives you some flexibility. Graduate level breakdown, we go a little bit more granular in that report and break down graduate enrollment by master's, doctoral, professional, and non-degree. And that breakdown is not on our standard report. At the bottom are what we call class funding reports, and that's just based on the campus funding. Sometimes we call it state reported reports. It's the old, outdated model of how we used to report to the Board of Regents, but we still have to run these reports all the time. At the very bottom is a link for enrollment tracking data set information. And so I'm going to stop here and do a quick plug for one of my teammates who's responsible for maintaining the data sets behind all of these reports on this page. She's doing a deep dive into that data just after lunch today. Whoops. So this is hysterical. This is the quick view. This used to be legible, and it's not anymore, mostly because it's not just because of all of our campuses and locations, but more recently, we also had to split out first-year students into first-year associates, and we had to split new transfers into new transfer associates. So now we have a ridiculous number of columns and a ridiculous number of rows. I don't like this at all. If any of you have advice of how we can present this better, please let me know. This is what it looks like zoomed in so you could actually read it. So you can see this is by campus. So I was saying the reports by campus mean we're breaking down the numbers by the campuses and locations. And you can see that we've also broken the undergraduates down by first-year student. And then under that is the Arizona resident, the non-resident, and the international. And as I said, we're comparing to this point in time last year. So up at the top, you see the enrollment data as of, that's the date the report is as of. I did this on Monday, so it says as of November 2nd. But if you were to look at the report today, it would have today's date. So that was the quick view, and I mentioned that all the other reports have filters. This is just a screenshot of what the filters are. The same filters are on every single report on this page. They are all defined the same way. They all mean the same thing. We give you the term, the session code, so you could pick session A, session C if you want. It defaults to all. We have the campus type, which are grouped by the 4 campuses, the other locations, online, and all. That's just a higher grouping. You can also get more granular and focus on a specific campus or location. We have all the colleges, divisions, departments, and then major. So you can go however deep you want. This is an example of the report that's by college. I'm not going to show you examples of all of them. You can imagine how it works. If you picked a college, you could also then pick a department and drill all the way in. So you get how it works. And this is also just showing that we have both fall 23 right now and spring 24. So I'm going back to the main enrollment and records page to look at the students page, which the link is right here highlighted. This is probably where our most popular reports are all found, right here on this page. These are the things that get the highest usage on a daily basis. And when someone asks, do we have a report that does this? This is usually where we're going to tell you to go. This again, there's about 30 reports on here. You probably can't read that. So I pretended that it looks like this, just so it fits, so you can read it right now. I've highlighted the ones that are the most popular. Class roster faculty center is more than the class roster. It allows a user to get a list of students that were in a class, a set of classes that were scheduled for a particular course, or a whole set of courses. It can be run by all sorts of different things. The pre-built report here is limited to pretty recent semesters, but there's data sets that you can use Power Query to connect to get all the way back to 2007. Does anyone know why we only go back to 2007, or can you guess? Yes. PeopleSoft, exactly. We did convert all of the data back to 1980. However, we didn't do it at a granular enough level to get a class roster out of PeopleSoft from before 2007. To go before that, you have to go to the legacy data warehouse, which we also have, but not on this site. So these reports, the data sets, if you connect to them, you can go back to 2007 and get complete set. Thank you. The enrolled students mailing list is a pretty popular report. It has all the contact information anyone would ever need to do any sort of outreach. It also has a lot of data in it that are not parameters that let you to filter while you're running it, but after you run it, you can export it to Excel and filter and sort more there. We have all these other lists. They're slightly different from each other based on the point in time that the student is in the major, things like that. And down at the bottom left, I want to point out we have the enrolled undergraduates data for retention that has every data point that anybody has ever asked to track about their undergraduate students. And underneath that is the full-time first-year students with their current enrollment status and program status. So it allows you to look at students who were in the cohort and see where they're at now. Have they graduated? Are they still enrolled? Have they changed their major? And then all of the information that might be interesting to check on their status. So here's an example of the class roster faculty center. Again, I just wanted to show you there's parameters up at the top you can use to filter it. Again, if you want more terms or you want to run this for more term at one time, this report is probably not the best idea. It's probably better to use Power Query. This is just showing all the information about the course, the class, the instructor, the meeting days and times. This is information about the students enrolled. I had to blur it all out because it's all FERPA protected information. But if you have access to the report, you'll be able to see it. It has their name, their GPA, their enrollment status, their major. If they dropped it, it tells you when they dropped. And then all of their contact information. At the top of every report that we publish, since most of ours are report builder, there's a link that says view details. And if you click on that, it has this metadata. We take a lot of time trying to give you the information you might want to know about the report, like what would I run this for? What's the purpose? What are the filters? Who am I already excluding? And what do some of the data fields mean? We also list all the tables that were included in the report. So if you want to build something similar, you can. It's followed by a list of all the fields. And then at the bottom, which I just pulled up into this little bubble on the left, it shows the date that we published the report and then any changes we made after that. We just tell you basically what we added or changed. Here's another one. It's called Students by Major as of today. Sometimes people want a list of all their students, even if they're not enrolled, and that's what this report is for. So it's everyone in a certain major, minor, certificate. It's everything they could possibly be in, along with their contact information, and it tells you whether they're enrolled or not. We also have courses and classes reports. This is where all of the course catalog reports are, information about course topics. That's like Music 354, you could take pop rock or the Beatles or whatever. Those are all called topics. They're all tracked on that report. There's a course permissions audit that lets you look up who gave an override to a student for a particular class. Someone overrided the class being full. We also have these fun reports, ASU classes taken by, and you can see there's several flavors of that. I'm not going to say that it's a transcript, but it's like a transcript. It's every ASU class that student has taken. You can run it by the student's major, if they're in your major this semester, or if they're in the major today. The third one only lists the classes they took while they were in that major. Someone asked for that. I'm not really sure why, but that's all there. And then we put another link here to the class roster faculty center report. It's exactly the same report as on the other page. We just put the link here too, because some people were looking for it here. So why not put it both places? Same report. Next, we have our graduation reports. This is fun. When students are ready to graduate, we really like to, it's one of the good things we get to do. So these are the reports we have there. Students applied to graduate by term is the most popular one there. It will list those who are applied or have already been graduated in that term. And the reason I say it that way is because we now graduate students for session A, which we just did a few weeks ago. And so if you were to run this for fall now, you would get both the ones we already posted and the ones that are still applied, and hopefully we'll be graduating in December. They're all in one set, so you don't have to run two reports. You see there's another one, applied to graduate for session A. That's just session A, clearly. And then we have students with degrees awarded by term and by plan code. Those go back to 1980. That's a complete data set. So if you ran that for a particular major or set of majors, you would get everyone back to 1980. Yes. We can definitely look into it. We'd have to see if the data is complete back to 1980, and if not, what would we do with the students that we don't know the ethnicity, because it might not have been captured that whole period of time. So yes, that's definitely a possibility.
Because That information for enrollment.
Yeah, the complication is that since that report goes back to 1980, it's possible that ASU didn't gather the information at all for those years. It's possible it wasn't converted to PeopleSoft, and it's possible that the definition, the different categories that ethnicity is currently reported at wasn't the same. So it might not be good data that way if we went back that far. Right. Yep. I'm not sure what you mean. This is exactly the same query that was in my reports. So. Whoops, I'm going to write that down real quick. Okay, thank you. Next is end of term processing. This is what our team does every December and every May, and we do some of it in August. End of term is academic standing. There's a whole process for students that are not in good standing. So that's basically academic warning, probation, and disqualification. The academic units have to review the records. They only have 3 or 4 days to do it. Ask the registrar's office to update the status if necessary, and then the students are dropped from their future classes if they're disqualified at the end of that process. So this is where they're getting all of that information from every semester. Under that is Dean's List, and that's the opposite. Those are the students that made the Dean's List. Anyone can use that to get a list or contact or mail anything out to those students. The important ones here are the missing grades needed for financial aid review. There's a chance that students might be billed back for their financial aid if their grades are not posted within a certain number of days after the end of the semester. So we work very hard with the roster contacts every semester to make sure that the students that could be impacted are graded on time. And this is how we do that. We also have classes with grades not posted, and then students with missing or incomplete grades. So I don't know if you need me to explain what those are for, but let's see. And last is codes and descriptions. So I might be ahead of time. So codes and descriptions are just that. Sometimes you just want to know, what are all the student group codes? What are all the service indicator codes? And then, of course, all the plan codes and sub-plan codes. So that's all these are. They're just lists of codes. And the last link is trainings. And what this is trainings that we've done with instructions how to use data sets in Power Query if these pre-built reports I just showed you don't give you what you need and you just want to use Power Query rather than getting on the BI desktop. If you're not familiar with Power Query, you can connect to data sets. If you have access is required, but it's the same process as requesting data warehouse access. You can create a report on your desktop using Excel, connect to these data sets, and then just refresh it from your desktop anytime you need it. So you could customize a report, do a pivot, do a count of whatever it is you want, or with the filters that you want. The idea here too is that you can merge 2 data sets. So if our data set doesn't have everything you need and you want to connect it with an admissions data set, for example, students from a certain high school or whatever it is you might want to do, you would be able to do that with those tools. So these links go to the recording of those trainings, and then the page link. This is an example of the page link for the students and classes data set, which is the same as the class roster faculty center, where I was saying if you wanted to set up your own filters or whatever, this is the instructions how to do that. The step-by-step instructions are very good. I didn't write them. Kristen Kennedy did. She did a great job. But They have screenshots and everything. So any level of user should be able to follow these easily. So in summary, we can't provide the data that everyone wants exactly the way they want it. We're doing the best we can to keep up with requests. Sometimes we're able to point you to a report that has everything you want, and that's what we strive for. That's what we want to do. If it's not exactly what you need, we might ask you to run what we have, export it to Excel, filter it, to get exactly what you need, or maybe merge it using Excel with another data set. The tools we use on the BI desktop are Studio. We're still using Studio. We also use Report Builder, dbeaver, and Alteryx. As I was saying, if you have access to the Enrollment and Records group, then you have access to our shared drive on the BI desktop, and we can share files with you there. So if you want a copy of our query so that you can add something else to it, like ethnicity or anything else, we can certainly do that. That's always an option. And that's it. So thank you for your time. I guess I went too fast maybe, but you might get to lunch earlier. I'd like to stop here though and ask, do you have any questions for me? Is there anything else you'd like to ask for on one of these reports? Yes.
Well, it's not a question exactly. You had asked about that. Jennifer provided me with a SQL code snippet for pulling degrees, the first degrees. And I took a little bit, and it is in there's an actual code repository that you can get access to. And there is a same queries once those connect to the person file that has like that. So if you've got someone who can use SQL on your team, have access to someone like that, there is a query out there and it's available.
Thank you. I'm glad that worked.
Shamelessly stole their work. One thing in it said, I
sometimes when we're asked to add something to a report like that, we might follow up and ask you why. What are you going to do with it? Who are you going to give this information to? What does it mean to them? And the reason we ask all those questions is sometimes because we don't have all the data. We have to make some decisions about what we're going to do about what's missing. Or we might have 2 or 3 or 4 options where to pull the data, and knowing what it's going to be used for, we might choose one way or another. We respond pretty quickly to questions that we have experience with and where's that data. Also in Ask Analytics and the ASU data community. So you can feel free to ask a question there. And if we can, I or someone on my team will answer. You can also send questions to us about our data at urtech@asu.edu. Again, if you ask us a question, we might ask back, what are you going to do with it? Or what does this mean to you? But we're happy to help anytime we can. Thank you. Anyone else, please? Okay. Like I said, I am very excited about the revamped analytics site. I am super excited to get out there and start tagging our content so that you can find it easier. Won't look anything like this in a few weeks. Our reports will all still be there, but we'll do our best to make sure that you're able to find them. So let me know if you can't find a report. Yeah.
Are you planning on doing any reports out of reports from the like Tableau or anything like that?
That's a good question. I don't know if you know, but the registrar's office does not have a very large budget. And so licenses for Tableau are not as affordable as the free report builder. So yeah. I love Tableau. Yeah. Okay. Well, if no one else has questions, I thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you.